Right off the top, I have a special request today. I have a very, very short 10-minute video that, if allowed, I'd like to play during public comment, seeing that there's maybe not a lot of people here today to speak during public comment. If not, if you all don't agree with that, then I'd like to request for this item that I'll talk about to be added to the future agenda item. First, I would like to thank Victor Reta, even though he's not here. But he'll watch the video and he'll hear that I like to thank him for all the work that he does for the city and for being available to me during the weekend when I had a concern about Chayo Podaca. And he reached out to me when I had a concern, and I appreciated that he was available during the weekend. I'd also like to thank Mr. Ochoa and from Planning and Zoning and Public Works for cleaning of Stockyard. I sent out an email to city staff and to my rep, to Mr. Nevares, and over the weekend, there was a dust storm, an extreme dust storm that created a lot of sand on Stockyard, which became actually very dangerous for all the speeding that happens around there, and cars were actually getting stuck in that sand as well. And I was not able to park next to my house either, so I'd like to thank them for doing that. The third thing that I wanted to, in the video that I have, the very short 10-minute video, is about roundabouts. I'd like to make a presentation if possible, if allotted that time. If not, then again, like I said, I'd like to put that on the agenda item. Thank you. I'll wait for you guys to decide.
Can we decide now, or do we have to wait after public?
Can a video service public comment?
No, because you're going beyond the time limits. You have to suspend the rules. It'd be safer to put it on a future agenda. And that way you have time dedicated to it, to be fair. Yeah, then you can discuss it.
We will place it on the next agenda. Bernice Salcido.
Good evening, Council. First of all, I'd like to thank the City of Socorro, Ms. Rodarte, for setting the bins out in our area. It was very effective. They were filled up twice, to the hilt, within the 24-hour time frame after they were set up. It was greatly needed, and it's greatly appreciated. And I'm extending this thanks to everyone on behalf of the whole neighborhood. Everybody was just ecstatic about it. And we would like to see it down the road after you all implement that program that you're doing. Mr. Rodarte, Mrs. Rodarte, rather, I really do appreciate that. And Mr. Rodriguez, I appreciate you for initiating that a year back ago. I'd also like to talk about item number 13 and number 14. We had a mutual agreement with the developer, Mr. Escobar, as to the new development to be added to our current development, Rancho Miribal Estates. The wording last time that we were here, it was kind of off and on, east, west, north, and I'd like to make clarification. On that lateral, the lateral is Salitral, and that additional 5 acres is west of Salitral. So just to make that correction, in the wording this evening, I believe that you all are saying that it's to the south, and it's actually to the west of that development, if you would. But I would also like to talk about item number 21 on this easements. And the reason I say that is we need to be careful with the easements that are allotted. We do have it in our ordinance on right-of-ways widths to make it safe. And I believe the proposal is to go ahead and reduce that collector street into a smaller diameter roadway, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, let's, thank you so much for your time.
Mayor, those were all our
Item number 5, proclamation to celebrate Autism Awareness Month from April 1st through April 30th, 2018. Mr. Rodriguez? This was your item?
Yes. You may have the honors.
Whereas autism spectrum disorder represents a broad group of disorders that vary widely from mild to severe and is characterized by difficulty with social interaction, communication, severely limited interest, and repetitive behaviors. And whereas the lifelong nature of autism spectrum disorder and other developmental disabilities require a variety of types of assistance at different points in an individual's life. And whereas a variety of public and private organizations and agencies strive to provide quality care, support, or services to children and adults with ASD to enable them to live as independently as possible and to reach their full potential. And whereas each organization has a role in identifying, assessing, or supporting people with ASD and their families, now therefore be it resolved that I, Elia Garcia, Mayor of the City of Socorro, do hereby proclaim April Autism Awareness Month in the City of Socorro and encourage our residents to become educated and informed about programs, services, and opportunities to support individuals with autism. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Socorro to be affixed this 19th day of April 2018. Item number 6, presentation by City Manager regarding March's 2018 monthly report.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm going to give you a couple of highlights for the month of March from our departments. Municipal Courts Department collected $164,689 with 26 cents. We had Amnesty Week, the week of the 26th through the 30th. We received 681 citations from Socorro PD, 22 citations from DPS, and 59 ordinance citations. The HR departments will celebrate birthdays and anniversaries for March and April tomorrow, Friday, at 9 a.m. They had a civil service meeting on March 26, continued discussion on Ordinance 186. There was 3 separations in the police department. We had our chief of police resign, 1 dispatcher, and 1 police officer. Our Parks and Public Works department cleaned irrigation canals behind Walgreens, Thunder, and Stockyard, removed and relocated no truck signs on Stockyard, and did shoulder work, potholes, and cleanup. They completed the milling and paving of Passmore with shoulder work. They overlaid Clippin and prepped Bulldog Park for our Easter event. They continue to mow and groom all of our city parks and ponding areas. The police department received 2,323 calls for service in the month of March. The police department conducts mandatory trainings for all officers to keep them TCO certified. Our city clerk department conducted and prepared minutes for 2 council meetings, March 1st and 15th, received 25 open records requests, and responded to 23, prepared the civil service agenda. Our planning and zoning department. The total collected for the month was $35,089. Issued 123 permits, 332 registrations, 9 applications, and 7 letters. They conducted 235 inspections. For code compliance, they issued out 32 notice of violations, 37 citations, and 64 cases were closed and attended 43 court cases. They prepared 6 zoning cases for Planning and Zoning Commission and prepared 7 city council cases for the month of March. This isn't in the month of March, but it pertains to the Planning and Zoning Department. Our director did submit his resignation, so his last day of employment will be on the 25th. He received a really good offer from Las Cruces. They want him back. Our Recreations Department had the Black Cube flag installation that took place March the 5th through the 9th. Senior Citizens Beauty Day at Socorro High School, March the 6th. Attended Escondrilla's Career Day on March the 9th. They had Kids Camp, took place March 12th through the 16th. Easter event took place on March 31st, which was a huge success. Total visitors for Rio Vista were 2,405, and for Chayo Podaca, we had usage of 439. Our IT department finalized the layout plan for Vineyard's new network, attended nationwide FirstNet conference for 911 First Responders Network, and troubleshooted all IT-related issues. Our grants department submitted 8 applications for grants, and there are 7 active grants. That concludes my report. Is there any questions that you all have?
I'm sorry, who resigned? I didn't hear it.
Mr. Ochoa.
Mr. Ochoa, you're resigning? Ah, you're gonna regret us.
Any questions?
Mr. Rodriguez?
On the Amnesty Week, what was the, how much money did how many citations were paid?
How many citations were?
You know how you gave us the full amount for the month? But on Amnesty Week, what was the difference though?
What was the difference?
Yes, in other words, just on that Amnesty Week, did a lot of people come out and pay their fines?
Yes, we did have an increase. You could see like the amount from last year, from last month to this month, it increased. But I would be able to give you a more accurate amount through email if you would like.
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Ms. Villalobos?
So just for educational purposes, when you have Amnesty Week, what does that mean exactly?
That means that people that have warrants are able to come in, and the extra charges that are added to them get removed. However, it just depends on the situation. If you had already made arrangements with the court and you failed, those charges don't get removed. And those are called KPS profiles.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 7, presentation by Miguel Hernandez, Executive Director from El Paso County Housing Authority. Unfortunately, they were not able to make it, so at this time, if somebody would entertain a motion to delete, and we can just go ahead and place it when they're able to come in.
Motion to delete? Second.
Daniel Rodriguez,
Aye.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran.
Yes.
Victor Perez.
Aye.
Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Moving on to consent agenda, do we have a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Daniel Rodriguez,
Aye.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Perez,
Aye.
Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Item number 12, introduction, first reading, and calling for public hearing of an ordinance amending the City of Socorro Master Plan and the proposed rezoning of Tract 26, Block 8, Socorro Grant 125 North Rio Vista Road from C1, Light Commercial, to C2, General Commercial.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing request essentially for a proposed rezoning on a property at 125 North Rio Vista, shown on the aerial here. It's at a pie-shaped lot located directly, I guess it'd be west of what's the neighborhood Walmart there. Subject property is currently zoned C1. The applicant is requesting a zone change, an upzone to C2, general commercial, essentially to allow them to build a shopping center on the subject property. They could currently do that now under the C1, but they're limited to the maximum, there's a maximum gross floor area allowed under C1. So under C2, they would allow them for more buildings or larger development on the property. That's essentially what they're requesting. The planning and zoning, pardon me, the Planning and Zoning Department did recommend approval to the Planning and Zoning Commission when it went before them, and the Planning and Zoning Commission did recommend approval with the condition that the applicant leave a sufficient amount of area in the front area of the property for any future potential expansion of Rio Vista, which the applicant was more than open to, and that the proposed development provide on-site ponding for all post-development stormwater, which is a requirement of code anyway, so they will be doing that.
Mr. Perez?
Mr. Ochoa, quick question. So then they're wanting to build a shopping center, correct?
That is correct, sir.
So then the C2 would allow them, what is the difference in this case between the C1 and the C2 status?
Okay. The type of uses are almost identical between C1 and C2. The biggest difference is under C1, you're capped as how big your building can be of 3,000 square feet. With C2, there is no limit as to the size of the building. Of course, it's still going to be limited because you need, parking, ponding, all that fun stuff. Yes, sir. But it just allows them to go a little bigger than what the 3,000 square foot maximum of the C1 zoning district.
Would it be worth consideration to have a conditional use permit for that under C2? Because if, my concern is this, that it starts being a shopping center, and then it evolves into something else that we didn't intend for, or we didn't, anticipate.
Conditions,
I don't know.
as in
Is that
limiting the
I mean,
uses?
Well, like, for example, when we give a permit for a business of some sort, and we have given them, and maybe I'm misnaming it, but we tell them, well, this is the only thing that you can have with the property as long as you are there, as long as it's conforming. I guess my concern is that we're approving the C2, as before we have approved C1s, and I don't know, maybe I'm missing something. I don't know if we've ever approved a C2 for a shopping center as a shopping center. We have?
Mr. Martinez has a comment. Mr. Perez?
Let me clarify my statement or my question. Is there a potential under C2 for it to evolve into something that we did not anticipate, or change into something, another type of business?
Sure. There is always a potential for something else, but the uses allowed under C1 are almost identical to those allowed in C2. And the most, the more intense, we're probably thinking of possibly body shops and so on and so forth like that. Those require conditional use permits anyway, so they would have to come before you for approval for
See,
that.
that's what I was
Yes,
saying.
and that's what we've done.
That's what I was getting at. Okay.
Yes, sir. So there are other requirements that they need to meet before those other uses would be allowed, sir.
All right, and that was a clarification that I needed.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Rodriguez?
So I think, and it's just my suggestion that we should postpone this until we put it in the ordinance to have that right away, dedicated.
You could since it's a Ms. Rodarte pointed out it's a first reading.
Right.
You could amend that on the fly, you could call for that amendment and instruct staff to provide for that amendment.
Okay.
And I don't know that the dedication will occur in
Right.
time for the second reading and public hearing, but if it doesn't, then at that time you could postpone.
Okay.
So do we need a motion at this point?
No, there's not a motion.
There's no motion, right?
No.
You're right, man.
Mr. Rodriguez?
So I'd like to make a motion. Well, like Jim said, we want to draft it up, try to,
I would say to require to require the applicant to dedicate to the city the front portion of the property that's described in the backup memo for future expansion of the street. And we can make that change and bring it back.
so moved.
Second.
Rene Rodriguez,
Aye.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Perez,
Aye.
Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Item number 13, public hearing of an ordinance amending the City of Socorro Master Plan and the proposed rezoning of tracks 2E and 2E2, Block 11, Socorro Grant from A1 Agricultural to C2 General Commercial, R2 Medium Density Residential, and the portion of the subject property south of the Salitral lateral to R1 Single Family Residential. 6:25, public hearing is now open. Mr. Salcido, you wanted to speak on this item?
Thank you. Like I mentioned earlier, the only correction there would be west of the lateral, so as to the wording would be correctly. I do have a map here. I'll be more than willing to share with you all, just to get your bearings on this versus saying south. If it were to be south, it would be actually up upon the Rancho Mirival. May I approach?
Go ahead.
Mr. Choi?
No, I get you.
The wording should be correct.
We're gonna put you on the spot. Just wanted to make sure that it is supposed to be south or west.
In terms relative
Yeah,
to the freeway.
that's why. No,
No, you're absolutely.
Hey, Adam, I'm sorry, Mayor, can we ask Adam to demonstrate that on the
yes.
map?
Sure. So the area that we're talking about is this, I guess, triangular shaped portion back here that's between the lateral and the railroad, essentially. So again, typically how we word things here is everything, this side of North Loop, we call it south, and that side of North Loop is north. That's how we call it out as south. But we are aware of it, that it is that area that will be Zone R1.
And so, I'm sorry, Mayor, can I ask a question?
Go ahead, Mr. Martinez.
But the point is that at that point, the lateral travels sort of northwest to southeast, yes?
Right.
So south is sort of the southwestern portion.
So we could call it the southwestern portion.
I think south works. I mean, with that understanding, I think south works. It's still the triangle on the southwest side of the lateral.
Correct. And not only that, since staff is the one who will be actually amending the map, we'll make sure that that is correctly placed on the map.
Yes, like I said, I'm not trying to be difficult or anything. I just thought maybe with the legals and stuff that we could do that. Basically, that's it. The last time we were here, we were calling it Isleta lateral and different laterals, and it's actually Salitral lateral, just for clarification. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other speakers? 6:29, public hearing is now closed. Item number 14, second reading and adoption of an ordinance amending the City of Socorro Master Plan and the proposed rezoning of tracks 2E and 2E2, Block 11 Socorro Grant from A1 Agricultural to C2 General Commercial, R2 Medium Density Residential, and the portion of the subject property south of the Salitral Lateral to R1 Single Family Residential.
Motion to, for the second reading and adoption of stated tracks, but to include the wording, the appropriate wording, which was southwest.
We could amend that to southwest if that makes everybody happy.
Yeah, I would recommend leaving it as is.
As is?
Yeah, because you published it as South Hub.
Okay.
Yeah, I get that it's southwest, but, you know, it's not, certainly not the northeast part of it, it's the south part.
So then, all right, so, well, I guess staff
As is.
knows what to do. Okay. So I'll retract the
Wording.
directional wording, but still move for the second reading and adoption of said tracks.
Second.
Mayor, can I offer one thing? I don't think we've heard from Mr. Escobar at a city council meeting on this issue before. Since he is here, I would recommend simply asking him to confirm that as the applicant, he is requesting the change to R1 of that little triangle that's south of the lateral.
How about we call it the piece between the lateral and the railroad tracks, the triangle? But that is correct. The agreement is that'll be R1 to conform to the standards of the neighborhood.
I think it does.
That includes all their covenants.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Rene Rodriguez,
Aye.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Perez,
Aye.
Ivan Colom Villalobos, absent.
Item number 15, public hearing of an ordinance amending the City of Socorro Master Plan and the proposed rezoning of Law 4, Block 1, Wall Estates Replat A, 10790 Socorro Road from A1 Agricultural to SU1 Special Use Zone. 6:31, public hearing is now open.
Fernie Salcido,
6:32, public hearing is now closed. Item number 16, second reading and adoption of an ordinance amending the City of Socorro Master Plan and the proposed rezoning of Law 4, Block 1, Wall Estates Replat A, 10790 Socorro Road from A1 Agricultural to SU1 Special Use Zone.
Motion for the second reading and adoption of Lot 4, Block 1, Wall Estates Replat A at 10790 Socorro Road from A1 to SU-1.
Second.
Ms. Villalobos?
I'm sorry. What's the special use for?
It's a zoning district essentially in the city of Socorro, which allows certain things, one being the proposed wireless communication facility on the site. That zoning designation is required for any type of a wireless communication facility.
I'm sorry, it's because something jumped out at me. It said Home Depot. I'm like, I didn't read that. I thought that's what the special use was.
Oh, no,
for.
that's a color. That's a required color for the fence, Mayor.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Rene Rodriguez,
Aye.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Perez,
Aye.
Ivan Colom Villalobos,
Yes.
Item number 17, discussion and action on approving the unaudited financial reports for February 2018.
Make a motion to approve?
Second.
Rene Rodriguez,
Aye.
Cesar Cesar Nevares,
Yes?
Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Perez,
Aye.
Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Item number 18, discussion and action regarding TML Region 4 quarterly meeting.
These are just mock-ups, so we can always change them, but, my department's been working on just a little bit of an idea of what we can offer. They're number one postcard. So in your packet, we had some mock-ups for you to do. We've been playing around with new editing software that our IT director has given the department. So we went ahead and looked at what other cities who have hosted the TML quarterly meetings have done. They typically showcase their city and their mayor gives a message of welcome. So we went ahead and started out with that as an idea. We wanted to depict all the fun and unique things that make Socorro amazing and all the things that we love about it. So we did include things like our logo for branding and identification, the mission and Rio Vista for our history. And then we showcase not only our amazing quality of life, such as Chayapodaca Bulldog Park, but also showcasing the history with the Bulldog Championship statue. On the second page, you will see a mock-up of what the itinerary would look like. We did start off at 6 o'clock, just like other cities, where we had welcome and registration with a mixer and entertainment. Then at 6:30, typically there's a meeting called to order with the mayor's welcome, followed by a networking that's sponsored by a business or an entity, usually a law firm. And then there is an invocation given right before dinner. During dinner, there is a little bit of entertainment, and then afterwards, there is a training session, and then official business does begin with a roll call, approval of previous meeting minutes, old business, new business, an opportunity for each city to do announcements, which they call the round table, and then they go ahead and do the next meeting. Afterward, each city does something a little different. They do door prizes, or they do kind of like a group activity icebreaker to close out the session. We were thinking of doing loteria and sponsoring, getting businesses to sponsor different prizes and showcasing a little bit uniqueness of the Southwest, and then we close at 9 o'clock. Yes, sir.
Mr. Perez?
This is great, and maybe I'm missing it. I don't see a date anywhere.
That is what we needed to discuss. So we have different options available. On the third page is something that I pulled from Borges Law Firm. They are a sponsorship of TML. They are part of the attorneys training, community service training, city official training. They offered a menu of items. I'm not sure who chooses the training topic, if it's TML or if it's the city that does it. But I did pull a menu of services that they offer for training. And then on the last page is our cost comparison where the date will come into play. We did do 3 different options. We did one in-house, one utilizing Del Rio Ballroom, and one utilizing Cattleman's. For the date, the city of Socorro is open to any day that we choose. For Del Rio, the next available dates that they have are Friday, June 1st or June 29th, and Cattleman's is available every Friday in June as of Tuesday.
Where is Del Rio?
It's right up off of Horizon, off of Stockyard. You make a right on Robin and then a right on Reed.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I think I.
Del Rio Ballroom has a really unique point of view because there is the valley under it, so you do see Socorro in the afternoon at sunset. It's really pretty.
I would like to keep it in Socorro if possible.
I agree.
I know, but that's what I'm saying, because the other one is Cattleman's, and Cattleman's is not in Socorro.
I do agree. I would love to keep it in Socorro. So the one that's highlighted in the middle in gray is what we're recommending. And then also for the TML cost comparison registration, it's typically $50 that gets paid to the city. So we're recommending to keep it at that point as well.
Mr. Duran?
Just a quick question. Why is the in-house more expensive than renting the Del Rio Ballroom?
Just because of the cost of food. If you rent the Del Rio Ballroom, they gave it to us cheaper because we were already renting the space from them. And what I quoted you for the in-house was a top sirloin steak. That can always change if you guys would like.
Lobster?
In the summary sheet, I did request $9,000 as the budget. If we do get 150 reservations at $50 apiece, that's $7,500. The remainder of that, we would definitely look out for sponsorships, such as great law firms and other negotiations in the city that could go ahead and pony up some of that money to go ahead and showcase their talents for the city, so that way the city doesn't eat any cost. Well, let me rephrase that. The city would pay for whichever attendees would attend the meeting.
By the way, I love this. This is beautiful. Very nice.
So it's gonna be a billboard off of I-10 or?
Everywhere, stickers, bumper stickers, cups.
Mr. Rodriguez, do you have any input?
We could have put Rio Vista here too.
Rio Vista is the third one on the C. Oh, you mean as an option?
No, no, no.
If we do it in-house, it would be utilizing this building specifically, where we could do.
No, he's talking about
the
picture.
too.
As
Oh,
part of the PR.
Yeah, it's
Oh.
part of the PR.
Rio Vista is the C.
Yeah, I know.
Where?
The C in
Oh,
Socorro.
that's, well,
Yeah,
actually,
I know, but that's what I was saying is, I would like it like down here.
And we can change it. It's,
No, but that's good. I mean, I like it. I like it. I really do. I just thought that Rio Vista should be our jewel. No, but I like it. One of the things is that if we're gonna choose a date, we need to call our president. The reason why is because some of the mayors, I called some of the mayors say that if we do it on the first, it's gonna be very difficult for them to come down here because they're having their graduations. And that's why, I don't recommend the first. Now, we're doing this is gonna be our first one. I just don't wanna do it on the first because of that. Because what if we do it and then only like 3 or 4 are gonna be able to come? But nevertheless, I think that, we'll call our president and just let him know, that whatever date we want. But one of the things is we need to be, we need to know more or less because some of these, we want everybody to come down here. Because it'll be the first time they come down to this side of the county, so. That's it.
All right, I'll wear my mariachi outfit.
Yeah, I would too, man. But that's all I'm saying is the dates, we can choose the dates and that's it. But I mean, that's the only issue I have for the first.
So
And I
what-
would love to have it on the first as well because I talked to Mayor Leos and he's having a golf course tournament. But it goes back to the same thing. What if we do it and only a few can come? I don't know how many are gonna be able to come. And that's the only thing that holds me back on that date,
The June date?
the June 1st. Oh, you can't do it?
Ms. Villalobos?
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of
Like-
vacation, there's a lot of vacation and graduations going on throughout you. Guilty.
And Mr. Nevares
Yeah.
also said that,
This can't get pushed till August, or it has to be in June?
no, because we're already we have to do our meetings every quarter. Okay, so basically you're already pushing it into another quarter by doing it June. So we can't really add a whole another month because we still have to have one for this quarter. So in other words, we'll have it in June, but June, July, and August, in the next month or two, we're gonna have to have another meeting. So that's what's gonna, put a crunch.
Mr. Duguet. So Del Rio has available when?
If June 1st or June 29th.
And June 29th is pushing it?
But like I said, I suggest talk to our president because he will be at this meeting. Talk to his secretary and he said that he will be here for that meeting. But then again, he didn't give me a date.
And April and May is not doable at all?
We can do it for May. We chose June just based on previous discussions in council. It had been for June.
One, I think May would be short notice.
Karina,
getting
How about
close
at,
to.
well, how about at the end of May? We're talking
We
about
can let-
4 or 5
I-
days.
I suggest we could let, our staff handle that and just call up and say, hey, when is it a good time?
Okay.
Because, all I'm saying is, just like Mr. Nevada said, is like, I won't be able to make it because he's got graduation with his daughter, so, I mean, that's the same predicament that some of the other, the cities have. So if we can do it earlier, remember, if we do it earlier, you know, the prices might go up because it's on a short notice. Or if we push it later,
June 1st is a Saturday?
June 1st is a Friday.
A Friday. How about the Friday before that? What day is
That
it?
would be, the Friday before that is May 25th, and that is Memorial Day weekend.
yeah. My suggestion is let staff,
We can do a different day in June and house it here, and we can change the menu to alter the cost to bring it down if councils would like. We can definitely do that as well.
You know, an evening dinner out in the middle of here
In the
Catering.
courtyard?
Catering.
in the Braceros, well,
In the courtyard at Rio Vista?
yes, I
And if it's windy?
A tent?
We can rent a tent and we can have it air conditioned. I chose this facility since it already had a roof, well, the walls and the air conditioning. And it would be not a cost to the city to do that.
no, we're not, Mayor?
But we can definitely do maybe the mixer across the street and have the general meeting and dinner in here. That way we can still showcase both areas of the city.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Mayor, I'm not suggesting we change what was presented. I think that any of these options are great. I really do. I don't think we should be worrying about changing venues or anything like that, or adding some more, because then all we need, I think is that all we just need is a date. I think staff should go out, give calls, and say, what is the best date that all of the municipalities are able to come?
And then we'll adjust accordingly.
And then we'll just adjust accordingly. If we have to pony up a little bit more, I think that it's in Socorro's best interest to do it, because this is our first time that we're going to do it. We need to showcase our city to other municipalities, and I think that this is something that we can start from now on. But I'm just saying that we should just let our staff go figure the dates, and then we'll adjust accordingly.
Mr. Perez?
Is Del Rio the only venue that we considered?
We have 3 venues. We also looked at Casablanca. They are currently selling their property,
Right.
but they do not have any availability for June or May. And then we have El Campanario,
And
that's
that's
on
it.
Socorro Road. They did not have any availability.
Neither the tent or the, because they have a tent.
I asked for Fridays and Saturdays, and they said since it's summer, they're usually hit up more for the tent. And unfortunately, they said as of Tuesday, they didn't have availability. But if there was a cancellation, they can call us.
Because that'd be a nice venue.
That was my,
Ms. Villalobos?
no, that's, he beats me to it. We're on the same league. All right. I mean, I know them, I can go ask them nicely.
Oh, okay.
They're good friends of mine.
Please.
I can definitely reach out to them as well and present you guys the difference in price if you guys would like.
And the reason why I'm saying it, and only because, yes, Rio Vista is one of our gems, but the way that the Socorro Mission has been lighted now,
Mhm.
it would look really nice as a contrast, or
Yeah.
as a
It's right
backdrop.
across the street.
Uh-huh.
Right. And one of the reasons why we chose the mission was this was originally a marketing card, and our tagline is a city with a mission, so that'll go on at a later date. But that's why we chose the mission.
Thank you.
Do we need a motion?
To approve.
Just to direct staff? Oh.
Oh, motion to direct staff to set up a date.
Second.
Rene Rodriguez,
Aye.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Perez,
Aye.
Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Item number 19, discussion and action regarding update to the City of Socorro media policy.
No, that's okay.
So this, just include all the changes that we went over
Victor, this
Yes,
looks
sir.
good, but for next time, just a suggestion. Do a strikeout so that we know what
What
was.
changed?
What was,
Okay.
what changes are being made, so that, I mean, I'll be the first one, I mean, I don't remember all the stuff that we covered. I'd like to say that I can, but the strikeouts would be a good reminder for that.
Yes, sir.
Please, thank you.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Rene Rodriguez,
Aye.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Perez,
Aye.
Ivan Colom Villalobos,
Yes.
Item number 20, discussion and action to enter into a contract for a 2018 Independence Day extravaganza fireworks show.
So this year, council, we did try to go out for bid to a new vendor that would be a little bit lower, somewhere closer to El Paso. The ones in El Paso already contracted out for Wet n Wild, the Chamizal, and the El Paso Chihuahuas. We did go ahead and discuss our concern with the price for last year's vendor. They did give us a credit, and so we are getting the same quality of show at a lesser price this year. We are hoping to go ahead and get the contract awarded, so that way we have something to take to a marketing perspective to get sponsorships for the cost of the show.
Good. Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Rene Rodriguez,
Aye.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Perez,
Aye.
Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Item number 21, discussion and action to direct staff to amend Chapter 6, Buildings and Construction, Article 4, Substandard Buildings of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Socorro, Texas, to require City Council to have final action on all substandard building cases and have the Building and Standards Commission provide a recommendation as requested by the Buildings and Standards Commission.
So, Mr. Chow, are you still gonna work on this when you're in Las Cruces? Yeah. No?
I do have a little speech after my next presentation, if y'all will allow me a little bit of time, actually. Ladies and gentlemen, this is essentially something that Planning and Zoning Commission directed staff to do. They are requesting essentially to amend the Buildings and Construction section of our code to essentially require any substandard building that goes before them, that they would be essentially a recommending body, and with that recommending body, then having you all have final action on basically all substandard buildings, aka kind of like the Coker properties and so forth like that. Just FYI, there are other sections that we would have to amend to. For some reason, there's another chapter in our ordinances that also refers to this, so that would have to also be amended as well. So that's essentially the amendment in order for City Council to have final action on these cases instead of P&Z, just like zone changes, just like conditional use permits, everything, basically almost everything else.
Mr. Perez?
Jim, would that be within the scope of the Planning and Zoning Commission?
Well, not with the Planning and Zoning Commission, with the building standards.
Pardon me, yes, the
But-
building standards.
So we're talking about building and standards, but still, would it be?
It's the same folks, I mean, it's the same.
Yeah.
The same group. The answer is, right now it is, and if you will recall, we created the Building
Right,
Standards
I remember.
Commission a couple of years ago. And the whole point of creating it was to handle these issues
Okay.
to termination, to the end, and handle them definitively, not simply pass on recommendations to council. I can tell you that the trend nationwide, I mean, if you went back 50 years, yeah, most of the elected officials, the elected bodies handle condemnation. And the trend in the last half century has been, no, to make those, get elected officials to focus on more macro level policy decisions and individual property decisions, and frankly, the code compliance decisions get moved to a commission like our Building and Standards Commission. And the idea is it takes the burden off of the elected officials, but also we want to rely on the Building and Standards Commission to develop some expertise in that area.
Now, just a second, a follow-up. Is there a potential conflict? And I understand we are straddled for volunteers, I understand that. But is there a potential conflict within the role of the Planning and Zoning Commission and the building standards or about building and standards?
Not inherently, I mean, there's always a chance one person may have a financial interest in a property that comes before one of those boards.
No, yeah.
But I mean, aside from that, no, there's no reason the BSC cannot function as the building as
Okay.
the planning and zoning commission as well.
Okay.
Mr. Rodriguez?
I'd like to make a motion to deny the ordinance change. I think that that decision should be kept in the building and standards. You know, one of the things is that if you notice on the agenda, I want to remove and have just one person per commission. Because what we've been looking at is that we've been placing a lot of people on different commissions, and therefore you're giving them more authority and a little bit more leeway on their decision makings. You know, I've looked at, you know, the city of Terrell, where they told us the same thing. They've had that issue as well, and they never progressed because they had that same issue until they said, you know what, we understand the lack of commissioners that want to. So there's a lot of implementation that we have to do, but you have to keep them separate because they're the ones that have to do those type of recommendations and have the last word. We have to understand where our place is. You know, we don't have to worry about the day-to-day operations. That's what we have a city manager. You know, so we need to look at what our function is as policymakers, because that's what we are. We're policymakers. Our staff and our commissioners are there to back us up all the time and follow the rules that we implement, our ordinances. So I understand, and the reason why I'm bringing the agenda to split them up is because some of the commissioners do not feel right because they weren't told that they were adding both of those under their functions until they got slapped with the first time. And then they said, wait a minute, we don't want to carry the burden of that because that's not what we signed for. We assigned for the planning and zoning, not for the building and standards commission. So that's why some of our commissioners, you know, called me and said, hey, I don't feel that it's right for us to condemn somebody when that wasn't our intent to come into the commission. Our commission was just for the planning and zoning. So I think that we should deny this, keep it there, then on the other agenda item, tackle it.
Ms. Villalobos?
Long story short, it is a conflict of interest according to our friends in Terrell, Texas. They were very adamant about having our board members have dual or more than dual positions. It is a conflict of interest, bottom line.
Mr. Duran?
I think, Mr. Rodriguez, I think if we leave this as is and then separate the boards, because that way we'll have the final say, but just, even if it doesn't get separated, we'll still have the final say. And if, later on, if we do separate the two, that way, because if we don't do this, then who's gonna have the final say on whether a building is condemned or not? Whereas if we leave it as is, you know, the final say will rest with council. But this way, if we leave it as is and if we just decide to separate the two, that way only the people on the Building and Standards Commission will have the final say. Okay? That's all I'm saying.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Mr. Zan, so you're saying just to delete it?
No, leave it as is, and then later on, when we get to the part of separating the commission, we can separate it if that's the will of council. But yet, it'll all still be the standards, and the Building and Standards Commission will have the recommendation to condemn a property, and council will have the final say. Whereas,
Ma'am,
Mr. Perez?
I think what Mr. Duran is saying is that this outlines the functions of the Building and Standards Commission. And so then we have the functions of the Planning and Zoning and then the Building and Standards Commission. And I know what you're saying about the members it's the same members, but we can address the membership as a separate issue and still keep and detailing what the functions of the Building and Standards Commission will be. Is that?
Exactly what I meant.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Mayor, I wasn't done, and I got cut off by these two gentlemen. No, I understand. All I want to say is, that's why we have commissioners. That's why we have these commissioners to take these appointments that we put in there and make their decision. I just want to stress out that there are some commissioners in planning and zoning that are in other commissions. So if you add the Building and Standards Commission, those are 3 commissions. Therefore, it goes against some of our charters because it says that you can only be on 2 commissions. So in other words, I understand that we have to revamp all of those. All I'm saying is, we should just leave that function to that commission for now. And if we decide to move forward and split them up and start revamping our ordinances, we can fix it then. We could just leave it as is, and then we go and we fix it. That's all I'm saying. So that's why I said my motion.
Ms. Villalobos?
Mr. Ochoa, why did this come about? Where did this come from?
This came from the Building and Standards Commission, essentially. They are the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Building and Standards Commission, and they felt that just like their duties are with the Planning and Zoning Commission, where they make recommendations for cases, that's what they wanted the Building and Standards Commission to be as well, where they make recommendations to City Council as well. Instead of them,
City Council do the
final action on them. Correct.
final action on it.
Mr. Perez?
Mr. Chua, so would you recommend then that we still keep with the proposal of the duties and functions of the Buildings and Standards Commission, and then at a later time possibly reconfigure the membership?
A lot of the complaints I've gotten from the Planning and Zoning Commission / Buildings and Standards Commission is, this isn't what I signed up for.
Right.
So if we get a separate board that they know what they're doing, that is what your job is, it might be a pill a little easier to swallow.
I would recommend that we approve what has been presented with the intent of trying to reconstitute, or not reconstitute, but find other members for the Building and Standards Commission.
Can I ask?
Mr. Rodriguez?
Okay, Mr. Pettis, so I'll rescind my motion, but I just want a clear
Right.
vision. You want to pass this one, and we'll have the final say for now, because that's what it says.
Because
So-
it'll be advisory
so-
in nature.
Yes, so then, when we do decide to revamp our ordinances and our commissions, then we'll go ahead and tackle who's gonna have that sole responsibility then.
Well, the thing is that if I understand it correctly, there still will be advisory in nature. And so their function won't supersede, their authority won't supersede the council's authority.
Okay, just,
Yeah, I was gonna say.
okay,
Miss-
just to
Ms.
clarify.
Rodarte?
So the Planning and Zoning Commission is, they come with a recommendation to council.
Right, it's their advisory.
Building and Standards Commission, they're the final say. That doesn't come to council, right? That's the, when you wanna dilapidate
Yeah, when there's dilapidated buildings.
buildings and all that in nature, okay? What we believe is that if they're wanting to be advisory also to council, it defeats the purpose of why they're there. You know, to kind of handle those cases.
I get you. I understand.
Okay, but the only reason we place this item on the agenda because the commissioners are the ones requesting, they don't want to be the final say, they just want to recommend to council, so council can make those decisions.
Hence, that's why the commissioners brought it to us,
Mhm.
because they
Right,
felt
right.
that wasn't what they signed for. Now, if you know, we can plug in people that understand what the rules are, then that's all good. El Paso does it. Clint does it. Horizon does it. They have their own that say the final say. Other cities like Pecos, Alpine, Albaline does the same thing. They have this final say. The thing is that we need to address the issue of some of them signed only for a portion, and then you slap them on the back end with another commission. So they felt that they don't want to do that. They felt that they had only for that. All I'm saying is, you know, and this is already redundant. You know, it's it's just something that the commissioners feel that they didn't sign up for. That's it.
Mr. Perez?
In retrospect, I'm thinking that having the commission as the final say is putting a lot of pressure on volunteers.
Yeah.
We're the ones that signed up for making the decisions.
Okay.
Here.
So then with that, I will rescind my motion.
Because we're the ones that were asked to.
And I get it.
For them to vote for us and to place that kind of burden on us.
So then I'll make my motion is to approve.
Mr. Duran?
I think, I do agree with Mr. Perez. We were elected to make decisions. And to have somebody that is appointed, I think that they might, the people that are affected might feel that, that's not the right thing to do. I think we were the ones that were elected. This is a hard decision. We were elected to make hard decisions. We're not, and to appoint somebody and then we could second guess them. No, I don't think that. I think we were the elected body. This is a very, very, it's hard. It's a hard decision. And like you say, putting it on the backs of a volunteer I don't think that would be right. So.
Ms.
So the
Villalobos?
motion on the
I'm sorry. I was just gonna say, I wanted to hear from Mr. Duran, who has 8 years, and
no,
Mr. Navares, 2 years. I'm sorry. I'm on 2 hours of sleep right now.
That's okay, Rosie.
I'm on 2 hours of sleep. I'm sorry, Mr. Navares. And I wanted to hear from you guys how you felt, because you've been there. So, and you've been slapped with these issues, and how did you guys handle them?
So the motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
Second.
There we go.
Mayor, we have speakers. Miriam Cruz?
Maybe I'll be short. What was the motion and what was the second?
Motion was to accept the proposal.
Okay. I was at the meeting where they were talking about this, and I absolutely agree with Mr. Perez. Everything that you just said is exactly why they felt that they didn't want to make the final decision, as well as I believe it would be hard to find people who would want to make that decision. So I'm glad you got to that conclusion eventually after all your discussion. Thanks.
Bernie Salcido?
First of all, I'd like to commend all of you for having this conversation between you all. I think it's very inviting to hear some positive from council and reaching an agreement in such a wonderful manner like you did tonight.
Thank you.
It's very admirable. And secondly, I think it's a big responsibility that the big burden on some people that are volunteers and trying to make some of those decisions. And you're right, Mr. Duran. You are the elected official to carry that. Thank you.
Mayor, those were all our speakers?
So just for clarification, the commission will move forward, correct? As advisory.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we would have to amend the ordinance,
Okay.
so that's what we're
We're doing.
asking.
Yes.
So that's what we'll do. Rene Rodriguez?
Aye.
Cesar Nevares?
Yes.
Ralph Duran?
Yes.
Victor Perez?
Aye.
Ivan Colom Villalobos?
Yes.
Item number 22, discussion and action on the preliminary plat approval for Sunset Valley Estates, Units 1 and 2, being all tracks 1C, 1C1, 2E, and a portion of tracks 1A, 1B, 1D, 2A, and 2C, Block 10, and all of Tracks 7B1 and a portion of Tracks 5A and 6A, Block 11, Socorro Grant.
Motion to approve tracks as stated for discussion, please.
Second.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a proposed preliminary plat, essentially for a single-family and multifamily subdivision. Subdivision proposes approximately 177 single-family lots and 52 duplex lots. The subdivision also proposes 2 regional ponding areas, which is something that we've been looking for in new subdivisions, and 2 new parks as well. The proposed development does also propose a couple of variances. One variance being essentially to the reduction of the required right-of-way width from 60 feet to 54 feet, as well as there is a reduction to the required side yard setbacks for the R2 zoning district from 7 feet to 5 feet, and a reduction to the required front yard setback from 25 feet to 20 feet. The Planning and Zoning Commission did take this under consideration, and they did recommend approval for the proposed preliminary plat with the proposed variances, with a condition that the narrowing, if you will, of the right-of-way would be of the pavement section from 40 feet to 34 feet. So those 6 feet would be going from the 60-foot proposed right-of-way to the 54. It would be going from 40 feet to 34 feet for the pavement itself. That is what the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended for this preliminary plat. And the Planning and Zoning Department did recommend approval with the condition that all comments from city staff and city engineer be resolved for the preliminary plat before the final plat comes before you.
Mr. Perez?
And there are no safety concerns with the reduction of the paved area?
I guess from a planning standpoint, no, sir. Actually, that's kind of a national trend now, to be quite honest with you, is the reduction of right-of-way widths, the reduction of pavements, because one, that slows down traffic and makes it less of a speedway, if you will.
Okay.
34 feet is typical that you see in El Paso. That is a typical pavement in Las Cruces that we've had as well. So it is typical in other areas, sir.
I am just concerned because there is a school there in that area, and so and it's Rojas Elementary, and so I'm just concerned about the amount of traffic that's going to come with the new development, and so I'm just asking about the safety concerns.
Yes, sir. Again, this is a typical local roadway that you see in other jurisdictions, sir.
All right, thank you.
Ms. Villalobos?
I do have a question on the reduction. How did that come about, the reduction? I don't think I've sat here and actually seen one where planning and zoning actually approved the reduction from 60 to 54.
The reduction was a request from the developer.
Correct.
He was requesting a variance with the approval of the plat. That's how it came about. They discussed it, and planning and zoning recommended.
Correct. These variances came with the preliminary plat, or the way the subdivision code reads is if there are variances that are requested, they go along with the subdivision itself. So that's why they're kind of, if you will, coming along with the preliminary plat. So that's why that came before you. The developer did submit these variance requests with the actual preliminary plat itself as well.
I'm sorry, I have another question.
Ms. Villalobos?
Did letters were sent out, or did anybody come in, any residents nearby come?
We had no public input for this proposed preliminary plat.
I'm sorry?
We had no public input staff received no public input for this proposed preliminary plat and variances, ma'am.
I'm sorry, I am concerned about the reduction. It's just concerned that our streets get narrow and narrow with every division, like subdivision that comes up, so.
The developer is here if you'd like to ask him some questions.
Sure.
you very much. My name is Sal Masood. I represent the developer, Carefree. I'm with Del Rio Engineering. We did come in with, first of all, in our submittal for the preliminary plat, we did also submit a whole battery of requirement that the city of Socorro requires, such as a TIA, environmental assessment, soil testing, percolation testing. So we've pretty much complied with every requirement that will make sure that safety is addressed, soil is remedied, percolation in the ponds are done, and so on and so forth. The only tool that we could use to ask for a variance is actually through the preliminary plat application. So that's how we presented it. And we have developed and presented several other subdivisions in Socorro where we've asked for that variance and the reduction on the street width, because like Mr. Ochoa had mentioned, that it is the trend in just about every municipality that I work with, and also from just going to training classes and continuing education, that most cities are going for narrow road for the precise reason of safety, which reduces the traffic, the speed. When you're looking at about 40-foot wide right-of-way, that only invites people to speed on a residential road that has a speed limit of 30 miles an hour, no more. So, as a matter of fact, in the city of El Paso, they're down to you can do streets 48 feet, the right-of-way, with 28-foot pavement, if you restrict the parking, but 50 feet is very common. County, the same way. They're giving us these reductions. As a matter of fact, they put it in their standards, that you can come in and ask for the variance and reduce the roadway width from 60 to 54. Actually, we've done it to 52. The only reason we're going for the 54-foot pavement, which is the face of curb to face of curb, is to pretty much comply with the fire requirements. They have one truck that is old, and the outriggers require 34 feet. Otherwise, the county would have actually approved for us narrower pavement than the 34. So that's where it's coming about. Thank you.
This is,
Mr. Rodriguez?
this is the, the entrance is in North Loop, correct?
That is the
Okay.
main entrance, yes, sir.
That's the entrance. Did we get right away for a future expansion?
Yes.
Yes, sir, they are dedicated.
Okay, another thing, lighting. Do we have sufficient lighting? Because it is going into a main street.
We will be submitting, of course, the full improvement plans, which will include the illumination.
Okay.
And the illumination goes through the review by the city of Socorro and the El Paso Electric Company as well.
Okay.
Mr. Duran?
Is there any deacceleration lane? Because North Loop is a pretty fast street, and to stop people from having accidents, if do you have a deacceleration lane?
That is correct.
Oh, you
That is
do?
correct. Of course, North Loop is a TxDOT right away, and part of the submittal that we do, we'll have to submit to TxDOT, and they will review, and whatever they require from striping to deceleration lane, we'll comply with.
Street lights.
Ms. Villalobos?
So, let me picture this. You're gonna have vehicle on the left, vehicle on the right, and then you're gonna have the ability to one vehicle at a time to move. I'm sorry, you're gonna have parking on the side, vehicles parked on the side. Could have, you guys are looking like you're blank. You could have vehicles on the side, and
Yes.
there will not be any room for two vehicles to pass by each other, correct?
There is actually.
There will be enough room, yes, ma'am. Typical driving aisle, from last standards that I've seen, they range anywhere between 10, 12 feet wide, and then actual on-street parking range in widths from 8 feet to 10 feet, so 34 feet would suffice, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification.
Aye.
Mayor, you call for the vote. Statute says if you're going to, you can certainly approve the variances. If you're going to approve the variances, the statute says that you have to recite the reason or reasons on the record. So somebody needs to say something about why. And you can certainly look to your staff for recommendation about why.
So I'll go ahead and restate my motion to approve the preliminary plat with the variances noted by staff, to improve the safety of that corridor, of the corridor.
Second. One more time. Aye.
Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Item,
Thank you.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Could we tackle 23 and 24 together, please? Can we do that, Jim? Because I want to postpone until next meeting.
Council wishes to.
Sure. Yes.
Item number 23, discussion and action to direct staff to go out and hire an economic development corporation person.
Can I make a motion to postpone till next meeting?
Second.
Aye.
Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Item number 24, discussion and action to direct staff to start a Socorro Citizens University class.
Mayor,
Mr.
I
Rodriguez?
make a motion to postpone till next week.
Second.
Next meeting. Aye.
Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Item number 25, discussion and action to direct staff to prepare ordinance amendments to separate the membership of the Planning and Zoning from the membership of the Building and Standards Commission.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Mayor, we have speakers. Miriam Cruz?
After your last discussion, I'm not really sure what you're gonna do, but I think what you're gonna do is vote to approve, to direct staff to, separate, both, commissions from being together. And I think that would be the right thing to do.
Aye.
Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Item number 26, discussion and action to direct staff to start the process for a possible annexation process. Schedule a special meeting for Wednesday, May 2nd at 6 p.m. to discuss possible annexation areas only. Mr. Rodriguez?
I make a motion to approve with, maybe the date will change if we don't like that date. It's a Wednesday, the day before our meeting. If we could leave it like that, or do we need to change it? So I make a motion to approve as is.
I'm good.
You can come in.
I don't know if we can have a moving date, though.
To what?
Mayor, I think it's limiting us and the attorney to have a presentation ready or the information ready by May 2nd.
No, okay. Do we have a second? And then we'll do.
Second for discussion.
Okay.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Okay, this is not because we're gonna do, this is something for us, council, to make up our minds if we wanna move forward, if we wanna, start, trying to look at areas that we potentially might wanna annex. But basically is, whether we want to annex is the question. Second of all is, what areas we want to annex. So that will take care of that day. Legal doesn't have to do anything about whether any presentations, because we are barely going to start. We started a process, we never finished it, and now what happened was that because we prolonged it, now the state changed it, and now we have to really look at the area. So what I'm suggesting is whether or not we want to pursue and continue to do some different areas. If we decide that we do want to, and if we decide what areas, then afterwards, our attorney can address the issues that we're going to face. That's all we want. I mean, that's all I'm asking. It's
Mr.
not,
Perez?
we're not gonna, yes, we are, and these are the properties. It's, look, we might be looking at these areas and stuff, and then we just make an agreement, and then our attorney can come back later on, which he doesn't have to present anything, and tell us exactly the
considerations.
changes and all of this, whatever
So,
happened to it.
so then it's more like a workshop.
It's a
then.
workshop,
Okay.
basically.
So then staff wouldn't have to necessarily have anything presented or,
No, they won't have to present anything. What we're saying is, do we want to annex? And two, what areas
The-
are we gonna look at?
well, that's the thing, that,
But if you all have any other questions, they won't be available. The attorney needs to prep for that information,
Mhm.
since the
But-
laws have changed.
But it doesn't, what I'm saying is, and sorry, Jim, no, it doesn't matter at this point, because he's not gonna know, because we all might decide that we don't want to. So then, it's mute. But if we do, then we look at what areas we might potentially look at, so that we can address it and say, hey, well, these are the areas we're looking for, let us know what we have to do. And therefore, then council, I mean, not council, but our staff and our attorney will address what we potentially decided, and then they'll come and present something.
so then if.
Mr. Perez?
I'm sorry, ma'am. Thank you. So then if we have ideas on possible areas, then we should come up with some kind of mini presentation or something to be able to get, I mean, we need some kind of visual, and.
Yeah, for us though, that's what I'm
Mhm.
saying. But it doesn't, what I'm saying is, we don't have staff or our attorneys to present anything to us because we don't know if we're going to annex.
Right.
So all it is a workshop so that we can make up our minds whether we're going to annex or we're not. What potential areas we're going to annex, and then we can make a joint decision and then just give it to staff and our attorneys and say, hey, this is what we're looking at. So see what changes. I already have it and I already printed out the changes. So I'm very aware of what changes are. And I don't wanna put you guys in the spot, but I'm just saying, I know. But I need the rest of you to follow and see the changes. But why is it that I'm gonna have to present it when we don't even know if we're going to decide as a board together if we're going to pursue annexation or not? So this is just a workshop. There's nothing to it. We don't have to, think of more decisions. All we're doing is setting a meeting just for us to say yes or no. If yes, then we say, okay, what areas? I could present something for you to give you a glimpse. You guys can think of something to bring to, and we'll go with that. And we'll just add all our minds together and make a decision.
Okay.
That's it. That's it.
Mr. Perez?
No, I yield my time.
Ms. Villalobos?
Just so you know where this comes from, we did visit Terrell, Texas. Thank you for those that voted for it, and if you didn't attend, I hope that you get the opportunity to go. These are beautiful, beautiful people. They treated us we got nothing but the royal treatment. We really did, in a short amount of time. And they did invite you, for those that didn't go, and welcome you. And basically, this is where the idea comes, where we went ahead, what do we want to do for our city? And this is one of the things that they suggested, is that we get together. We talk about the areas and what direction we want to grow economically here. And one of the principles that we have to do is start to dissect our land and allocate it for future growth. And this workshop is basically for that. It's a start of something that we want to bring to Socorro, something different that should have been done a long time ago. And hopefully in the near future, we'll start having those big companies in here. But this is basically where it starts. That's what I wanted to say.
Mr. Perez?
So then the workshop is to establish the vision for.
Yes.
Projected growth or projected markets. Okay. call the question.
Mayor, we have speakers. Miriam Cruz?
She already,
No, not for this one.
oh, that's right. Okay.
I would just recommend, if it is gonna be Mr. Ochoa's last day on the 25th, that we might wanna get his ideas before he leaves. So I would add to the motion to get some sort of recommendations or ideas or whatever Mr. Ochoa has learned that Mr. Leone was working on, whatever that may be, so that can be distributed after he leaves and they can be available in May. And I'm really sorry to hear that you're going.
Because then he'll want to charge us as a consultant after.
Before he leaves, he needs to put a list together. No, I'm just kidding. But yes, no, I'm just kidding.
Those were all our speakers, Mayor. Rene Rodriguez,
Aye.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Perez.
Before I do, if staff can ask Mr. Ochoa as end of duty report to see what projects are pending and what his recommendations are, so that can be taken care of by staff. Aye.
Ivan Colombia Lobos.
Yes.
Item number 27, discussion and action to amend ordinances and policies for city boards and commissions to provide that a person can serve on only one board or commission at a time.
Make a motion to approve?
Second.
Rene Rodriguez.
Before,
Mr. Rodriguez, go ahead.
Go ahead.
before we take the vote, is there any speakers there?
Do we have speakers?
I'm sorry, yes, we have a speaker. Miriam Cruz?
The reason I signed up to speak on this item is because I do currently serve on 2 commissions. I didn't want to serve on these 2 commissions. I really wanted to serve on the Planning and Zoning Commission. And when Ms. Colombia Lobos asked me to serve on these 2 commissions, I said I would be willing to volunteer my time to do that. We've only met for the Civil Service Commission, and we actually have been meeting every month, which is unusual if you look at the past years. We have not met for the Ethics Commission. I believe there is a member who has not appointed whoever they need to appoint or whoever they want to appoint. And I do believe that apparently it's hard to find volunteers and commissioners, and so I'm not really sure why moving from being able to serve on 2 commissions, even though I didn't really want to in the beginning, would want to change that now, if it's only going to prolong trying to find commissioners or people that are willing to volunteer their time. Having said that, I'd like to know what the process would be for the people that are serving currently in 2 commissions. Do I get to pick? Does someone else get to pick and say, well, you're not going to serve on this one, so we'll leave you on the other one? I'd like to know what you all think that process is going to go about.
Mr. Perez?
I thought that the charter allows for serving on 2 commissions, is not, or am I incorrect?
Mhm.
So then
No, it's not
It's
in the
not-
charter, it's
it's
by
not-
ordinance.
by ordinance, so then we're going to amend the ordinance for that? I mean, 2 I can see, I mean, that, but, yeah, I'm torn. The only reason I'm torn is because we're straddled for volunteers.
And I understand your concern. That's my concern as well too, is that there's some people that sign up and then don't show up and stuff.
And I've been very
And-
honest, half of the people in Socorro are related to me, so.
You know, of course, and that's an issue as well, you know, but, you know, thank God I don't have family in Socorro. But one of the things is, no, in a way is that because, you know, I like to keep them far away. But, I hope my mom doesn't see this. But, one of the things is that in Terrell, Texas, when they revamped their ordinances, and they split up their commissioners, they found out that it was smoother. For example,
No, I understand.
one of the commissions is the building and standards. They separated. The thing is that like us, they didn't have com-
Make sure it doesn't get.
s- so the whole you want me to wait?
Still recording?
Time out.
We're not recording.
He's gonna lose it.
Yeah, I'm already like halfway out.
Put it in the corner.
Bless you.
Bless you.
IT, to the table, please, IT.
Just one more.
Please wait.
Not a professional in there.
Yeah, it's still recording. He's talented, he just looked at it and got, and it fixed
Yeah, his
itself.
magic
It's like
left.
a backup.
The recorder fears him.
I mean, it's still recording, so we can continue. That's just kind of like our
A
backup.
backup.
Okay, good, because I'm already like 1/4 of it, no más. No, no, I lost it. What am I doing? All I'm saying is that our commissions would run smoother. We would potentially, if there might be an ethical issue, or because we've had commissioners where we placed when we came in 3 or 4 years ago, and then one of them had sit on 2 boards, one of them helped them pass another one, and then he just bailed out. So those are the issues that we have to face.
I'm gonna interrupt you one more time. Just, Miss Colombia Lobo stepped out around 7:35? 7:34, just.
Oh, okay, yeah, for the record. And all I'm saying is we need to separate them so that they can only function for that particular
Mhm.
commission. The reason why is because we have commissioners that don't understand their role. Okay, they don't. They don't understand that they're advisory and that they're only their sole purpose is to look at our ordinances and see if they were not fulfilling the ordinances or they did something wrong. And some commissioners take it upon themselves to add stuff to ordinances that have no clue. So they don't know their roles, and yet we're placing them on 2. So I think that we should have, I got 15 minutes, Ralph. So I think that it's in Socorro's best interest that if we're going to have a commissioner, to just place him on 1, send him out to training for that, and make him a good commissioner. That's what we're trying to do. I'm trying to emulate the city of Terrell because you can see their infills, you can see their ordinances working, they give us stats and that. That's why I postponed it 2 of my items, because we're gonna present, me and Ms. Villalobos, what we've learned on the next agenda item, and explain to you exactly why these came about. And it's very productive. I think that the city of Socorro needs to move away from the old and in with the new. I think that we need better commissioners. And if we don't have better commissioners, at least put them on 1 and make them good at 1. Very proficient. I think that's what it is, and I'm done.
The only comment is, if council was to vote to go ahead and approve 1 person per commission, for the ones that are already in a commission, would you agree that they should be able to finish their term, and then the new appointees abide by the new
agree.
ordinance?
I agree until, this could, Mayor?
Mr. Rodriguez?
And this is just to answer a question. I believe that, yes, we revamp them. I think that when our time is up, just to answer one of our commissioners that is here that asked that question, is we still have the right to appoint them, because that's what our right is. I don't think that it'll be up to the appointee to say, I'm gonna put you on here, or where would you like to, if I have an opening. So I think that I still believe that we should have that right. I think that if we start to revamp these and cut them, I think that it's, from now on, I think we should say in 2 years from now, it already changed. That'll give us enough time for the commissioners to understand that we are gonna change at a certain date. But I think we should start.
Mr. Duran?
The Citizens University that you want to put on is probably one of the best ideas we've had in a long time. I think we need to educate our citizens as to how our city operates, then give them the option of wanting to serve on a board, and then give them further training as to how that board or commission works, because, like you say, a lot of them have no idea, and they want to put, you know, what they feel is in something that, especially in Board of Adjustments, we had that so often. They did not want to follow the law, and they wanted to change the law because they were the board. That's not the way it should be. We need to train our citizens, number one, allow them to choose which board or commission they want to serve on. If they're educated, they'll make educated decisions. If we just, you know, I think we need to change it a little bit so that they can serve out their terms. Because if we change it right now, we're going to be back to lack of quorum, because we don't have enough people that want to serve, number one, that are qualified to serve. So I think we need to step back a little bit, educate them first with the Citizens University, which is, I mean, I wish that was in place 8 years ago when I was on civil service, because when I got on there, I had no idea what I was supposed to do. Same with Board of Adjustments. We've seen people that want to add things to it that are against the law. They want to violate the law. If we train them, first of all, as to how our city runs, then if they want to serve on a board or commission, they pick it, and then we give them further training. And I think one commissioner per, or one person per commission per board is the best idea, because there are conflicts that happen. But I think we need to move into it easy, not one, you know, I don't know how you would amend this to allow them to fulfill their term, and then we start one commissioner per board or commission.
Ms. Villalobos?
That's okay. I wholeheartedly agree with this, because this came about over a conversation we had with Terrell, that I was trying to do a town hall meeting one time, and I was trying to educate the citizens, and instead it turned into a disaster. And I didn't feel like I should do another town hall meeting, because all they wanted to do was talk about the past. So this is how they overcame these type of situations, because they mimic a lot what we're going through, or at that time. But I think 2 years is way too long. We're gonna have people lose interest. I think we should educate them first, and once they have their certificate, because they get a certificate, then we can, you know, start adding the member, you know, placing them where they need to be, and not remove anybody until we have somebody to fill that position. But 2 years, I believe, is too long.
Mr. Perez?
I agree, and I think that maybe we can rework this to where you can initiate the Citizens University now for the current members, and then instruct staff to look at the last, or the most current appointment, and at the end of their date, then we switch over to
One member.
the one member. So that way they are able to finish out their term. And no, my suggestion is just simply to look at the most recent appointment to a commission, whatever that commission is, and then jump into the single appointment to a commission, and for the next subsequent appointment. Is that doable?
I mean, you got a lot of options for how you could roll it out, how you could introduce it, but even if you look at the most recent one, then you still might end up at 2 years or
At
longer,
2 years.
depending on how long their term is.
Mm-hmm.
So then the other option could be, is roll out the Citizens University, and at the end of that, have the commissioners informed that the structure or the appointment structure will change.
Mhm.
And then at that point, they can decide either to stay on, if they're serving on multiple commissions, choose one. And then the fact that they've been instructed on both just serves to have a better prepared commissioner in the future if they want to participate again in that commission.
I agree. I just want to, you guys to,
So that way we could jump.
the only reason why I postpone it is because it's too much information that, because we came in and then we have a lot of work, I have a lot of work, so we wanted to show you guys what we saw. We're gonna present something to you guys, and then you guys have a better understanding of what we're trying to do and with these agenda items. So I didn't wanna just push it in just because then I really want you guys to understand that not everything is gonna fit us.
Right.
And I understand that. But the majority of it, they went through, and these are things that they went through that they finally got the city moving forward because they changed these particular things. But what I'm saying is, I get it and I understand. I believe that an ordinance is gonna take 3 months, 4 months, correct? To change those? All of them? Yes. No, how long would it take? Just ballpark figure. Okay. But it's not gonna happen, because we're gonna have to go out and replace them. But one of the things is that, no, I mean, just call it like it is, He got a better deal, I would take it too. But, so it's gonna back up. So all we can do is start it, and then I'll bring you the presentation. Then if you guys like what we're gonna bring with the university, then it can work in conjunction, because we can already start working on it, and that'll give us enough time for them to go through it before the ordinances are complete.
But I think that I think, well, this is related to it, and unfortunately, it's out of the agenda, but.
So if you want,
But that Citizens University
should go first.
It should be done now.
Okay.
I think. And that can be done in conjunction with with Mr. Martinez to go, not necessarily him, but provide us the information, so either someone from staff can present, and I think it's more of an orientation than it is a university type setting. To be able to provide that delineation of duties and responsibilities, so that they're aware and they understand of what they need to do, and concurrently work on redoing the ordinances.
So then I'm gonna amend my motion, postpone it till the next meeting, and then we'll tackle the other ones first, and then we'll tackle this one. So I amend my motion to postpone to the following meeting.
Second.
Did you separate it?
We both.
It was a tie neck and neck.
It was tiny.
Aye.
Yes.
Victor? Everybody's gonna get wrong.
I like Ruby.
No,
I did say yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Item number 28, discussion and action to adhere to the Roberts Rule of Order, parliamentary procedures, and follow the disciplinary action for violations. Mr. Nevares?
Well, and there's the highlighted section in page 2, so I don't think we need to discuss further. Read it.
Second?
Mayor, we have a speaker?
Thank you for being so frank, Mr. Nevares, and quick. One thing I wanted to mention, I was talking to some county officials about 2 weeks ago, and I was going over some Robert Rules procedures that I actually didn't know existed, and I found out they existed because of some of the members up here. Anyway, I was talking to him, I was like, oh, that's so crazy. And they told me that the city of El Paso and the county itself has amended Robert's rules. And I would recommend that may be something that we may want to look into, because maybe not everything in Robert's rules is what we want for this body to work with. And that's just one thing I wanted to mention since it was brought up. Thank you.
Ms. Villalobos?
I do have, Thank you, Miriam. I do have a problem with it because if you notice today how beautiful everything went, how smooth it went, how we spoke, but many of you, I wasn't one of them today, spoke several times on this item and went back and forth. And so, no, I'm not saying anything bad, but sometimes we can't allow a rule like this to keep us from saying, you know, what we really need to say, because, you know, sometimes I'm up here tired, believe it or not. He's tired, and really.
Time's up.
And,
It's been applied.
and we might forget to touch on something, and we only speak for a minute or two, and all of a sudden he brings up something, or Mr. Bettis brings up something, or any of you bring up something, and then we forgot to talk about it, but then we won't be able to talk about it because we've already spoken twice on the.
Mr. Nevares?
But can't we go back and amend the rules, though?
Mm-hmm.
What I'm asking is, to the point, let's pay attention, and let's not go around in circles, because that was brought up in the last meeting as well. And like you said, some of us are tired, right? So let's pay attention, adhere to the rules. We don't want to be sitting here for 5 hours, 4 to 5 hours. We're doing great today. I commend you guys.
Mr. Rodriguez?
I agree, because I'm guilty. I'm guilty of this. No, I'm really, you know, I'm guilty of it. I understand. Like today, I got to the point, I said my piece, and that's it. Because I understood, because I got called on it too. So I understand, and I really thought about it. I actually went, looked at the record, and I'm like, my God, I said that like 5 times. So I understand, and I'm gonna adhere to it, and I think it's great. All I want to say is, I think that we should just be held out to twice. But when there is a question, that's I think that we should be allowed only to answer the question. Like Mr. Perez had a question for me. You know, those are the things that we should have a leeway on that. Or Mr. Duran, who had another question, you know. I think we should be able to do that. But as far as holding the floor to give our 2 cents, I think that we should keep it. And I agree with Mr. Nevares that we should be straight to the point. And like I said, I've been guilty, so I'm going to adhere to it.
Mr. Perez?
Okay. I believe that asking a question is fair because it'll inform, and I can only talk about myself, it informs my decision in terms of getting clarification on issues. That's it.
Okay.
So where,
Ms. Villalobos?
so where are we with this statement here? So we're back to square one. We will try to respect Robert's rules, and we all understand that there might be questions, and we can overwrite the Roberts rule or amend the Roberts rule, just like Miriam had suggested. Is that what is?
That's your third one. Mr. Perez?
I apologize. I don't mean to monopolize. I think that if anything, the most important thing is that we go through Mayor Garcia to be recognized. I think that's the best control, the best control of the flow of conversational traffic. And so that's all.
Mr. Duran?
We already have an ordinance about Robert's Rules. It was enacted, I believe, March 20th of 2014.
Mm-hmm.
We already have it.
And that's what Mr. Nevares attached to his background.
Yes, so we already have this,
So follow it.
All
so
he's
we
saying
just
is
need to follow
adhere
it,
to it.
adhere to it. And, excuse me? And I do agree with Mr. Perez. The mayor, according to our charter, is in charge of our meetings. If we need to say something, we need to be recognized, so we're not talking out of turn. If we need to, all motions need to be repeated, because according to Robert's rules, you cannot say as stated. That is in Robert's rules. And also call for the question, that's been done a lot of times. That is a motion that needs to be voted on, needs to be seconded. It is just a motion to stop discussion. It is not a motion to move on to the next item. So I think if we need to just adhere to Robert's rules. It's already been done. Mr. Nevada's just brought it up again that we need to go back and do what we're supposed to do.
Do we need to take a vote?
You certainly can. You don't
There was a motion.
like any other item.
Motion to approve.
There was already
Second.
a
Yeah,
motion.
I already had a second.
There was
There
already a
was
motion.
motion, and I already seconded. Aye.
Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Do we have a motion to go into executive session?
Motion to go in.
I can say, Mr. Treble, I would ask you to postpone those, the 32 and 33 to the next meeting.
Okay.
So, Madam Mayor,
Do we have anything for 29, 30, and 31? Okay, do we have a motion to delete 29, 30, and 31?
motion to delete 29 through 31.
Second. Aye.
Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Item number 32, motion to postpone.
Motion to postpone item number 32
The next meeting.
for
Sec-
the next meeting.
Second.
32 and 33.
I'm sorry?
32 and 33?
Yes, 32 and 33 postponed. Make motion to postpone until next meeting.
Second. Aye.
Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Aye.
Yes.
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 I think you said yes. 7:56, meeting adjourned.
Miriam.